Hair, we in the last class we studied the different hair anomalies, medical conditions, and their treatments. We also studied comparison of hair with regard to race, origin of uh, body part, and also species, human or animal. If you remember, I had covered these three tables in the last class. Of course, I didn't use the presentation because I didn't have the presentation that day. I used a web page to show you. So comparison of hair among different races, comparison of hair among different species, that is your human and animal, is sufficient, and comparison of hair based on origin of body part. We covered up to here, and practicals also. We touched a little bit upon it. Of course, we didn't have human hair. I'm arranging for human hair, animal hair. Once we get animal hair, you can all see animal hair also under the microscope, so you get to know what we're talking about when we're speaking about all these characters. Anyway, today we'll just talk about what is the content of hair, the chemistry of hair. If you're going to break it down and study what does it contain and how it's important in a forensic way, we'll just try to cover that part. And lastly, a little bit of analysis of hair. We'll be doing it again in practical, but still I'll just try to do it as part of my theory. Hair, we've already understood it. It's a proteinaceous filament, so it contains proteins. It's a dead part of human body. It does not have live cells except for the follicle. What are proteins? Proteins are biochemical substances. They are metabolites from the food that we eat. There are multiple different proteins based on the number of amino acids that make up the protein. So we have uh, amino acids like albumin, glycine, tyrosine. There's an endless list of amino acids. Amino acids are basically nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen compound containing substances. Biochemically, they are nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen containing molecules, which are short chain molecules, but they tend to form nitrogen bonds with each other, and they can extend a chain. Okay, they are small amino groups, nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen containing molecules. They have a tendency to form nitrogen bonds with each other, and they form a chain of amino acids. This chain of amino acids is your protein that we have all over our body. So hair also contains similar proteins. And what are the two major proteins that hair contains? It's keratin and melanin. I started off my hair discussion with this understanding only, keratin and melanin. So what does keratin do? What does melanin do? Keratin gives hair its rigidity and stability. So when you notice, aged hair, gray hair, it feels very, very, even when you feel the hair of old people, it feels very cottony and not that rigid or not that, uh, coarse. It's very fine. Similarly, when you look at it in babies, you feel the same thing. That's because of the absence of keratin at both these age groups. Young population, healthy population, we have a lot of keratin. That's why our hair is more coarse, rigid, stable, all that. Keratin is what makes your hair stand up from your skin. If not for keratin, your hair would all be flat over your skin. It is the protein which gives its rigid structure, and it's able to point up and stand out of your skin. It's a structural protein. It's not a functional protein. It does not give color, or it does not give any particular attribute to hair. It's a structural protein, and its basic function is to provide the structure, rigidity, and stability. It it is more close to 50-55% of your hair is keratin in your healthy age. Melanin is another protein. It's a pigment protein which gives your hair color. So, production of melanin is more when you're young, slowly deteriorates when you're old. Slowly, our hair loses the melanin and we turn gray or white in our hair color. So, these are the two major proteins. Keratin gives your rigidity and stability, melanin gives your color. There is, even though keratin and melanin are the major proteins which we're talking about, there are two types of melanin which give colors specifically. Okay, so we need to understand that even though melanin is the only protein which gives us the color, we have multiple colors of hair. It's not the same black shade, gray shade, white shade. There are multiple colors of hair in different races, different nationalities, different age groups also. The reason is because melanin is not just one type of melanin, instead, it is two types of melanin that humans have. And genetically, we possess different ratios of these two types of melanins. And these two types of melanins are eumelanin and pheomelanin. Eumelanin are usually the ones which give the darker shades. Pheomelanins give the lighter shades for your hair color. There are studies which talk about European American hair, especially the blonde hair, even the non-blonde hair, which contains more pheomelanins than the Asian population and the African population. We are very deficient with the pheomelanins, whereas they have a lot of pheomelanins in their hair. That's why they get their different hair shades, hair color shades, whereas we have almost a typical black shade all across this part of the world. Okay, so eumelanin and pheomelanin are genetically controlled. So we take it from our parents. So when your parents have pheomelanins a lot, supposing we see these intercontinental marriage families, we see their children also getting their hair color. That's because it's genetically controlled. These two types of melanin is what is going to determine your hair color. Black color is going to mean a lot of eumelanin. Brown color going to mean a lot of moderate amount of eumelanin and partial amount of pheomelanin. Lorraine, you want to say something?
Yes, sir, I had a doubt. So red hair falls under eumelanin or pheomelanin?
It's that's what it's not like clear cut pheomelanin and eumelanin. It's actually ratio of each. Pheomelanin is usually highly present in blonde hair, moderately present in red hair, very little or absent in black hair. Eumelanin is high in dark hair, very little present in red hair or kind, and totally absent in blonde hair. That's how it is. It's a ratio. We can't say
Okay, sir.
it is only this exclusively. Okay, so black hair has a lot of eumelanin, brown hair moderate amount of eumelanin, blonde hair very little eumelanin, and it's the inverse when you go the other way when you're talking about pheomelanins. There is one strawberry blonde. This was part of textbook literature, that's why I put it in here. So somewhere in the middle is your strawberry blonde, which has almost equal parts of eumelanin and pheomelanin. That's what books said. Okay, so strawberry blonde, I went through the color, it was almost like this. Even though we tend to think of strawberry as dark red or bright red, strawberry blonde in hair color looked somewhere here, which is halfway between eumelanin and pheomelanin. That is the kind of ratio. Red hair has more pheomelanin, very little eumelanin. That's how it is. It's a ratio. It's not exclusively one particular melanin pigment giving one color. It's a different ratio. Other than these proteins, what does hair contain? Like I said, 55% close to is your keratin, 55 to 90, 95% is your melanins. So usually proteins are the major part of your hair. 65 to 95% is your proteins. Little bit of water is there, which is the base for all the proteins and the lipids and all that are there. Little bit of fat deposition is there in your hair. Lipids also get deposited in the hair strands, 1 to 9%, not a great considerable amount. And pigments and different other pigments and trace elements, very trace amounts, less than 1% of your hair. Why is this important? Because there have been cases where the biochemistry of hair has led to identification of a particular person, accused or anybody. Okay, so there have been cases where the biochemistry has been important. So what is this keratin and melanin, and how do they work? Like I said, they are proteins. Proteins are long chains of amino acids. Amino acids are the individual parts of proteins. Amino acids form nitrogen bonds with each other. In the case of keratin, what happens? nitrogen bonds are weak. Okay, nitrogen bonds are weak, and proteins can easily be digested also. When you eat a lot of proteins and avoid starches and carbohydrates, you will not get, difficulty in digestion. You will not get bloating, and you will not get all these different digestive problems that people get. Proteins are considered to be one of the easiest to digest. Even though we think that carbohydrates are the easiest, proteins are the easiest to digest, and that's because of the low strength of nitrogen bonds that are formed between amino acids. It's easy to assimilate proteins, break them down, absorb them into our body, and metabolize them and use them. Keratin, because of the function that it performs, that is your structural function, your rigidity function, keratin also has strong disulfide bonds between the amino acids that form your keratin. These strong disulfide bonds, they form the actual structure of keratin, which makes it quite strong, rigid, and makes it grow away from hair. And this strong disulfide bond is also one reason why your hair does not easily decompose. This strong disulfide bond is one of the reasons why your hair can persist even through decomposition. So therefore, keratin becomes an important part not only as a structural protein, even in the forensic sense, it ensures that the hair does not get decomposed. Melanin pigment, on the other hand, it's again a long structure of amino acids, and the amino acids that are present in melanin is your insole and quinone amino acids. And it also, this insole and quinone is also present in tyrosinase enzyme, which is part of your digestive system. This tyrosinase enzyme is what gives color your hair. It kind of regulates eumelanins and pheomelanins. I know it's a little too much to understand, but just understand that keratins, more than having nitrogen bonds between amino acids, they also contain strong disulfide bonds, which allow it to be a structural protein. This strong disulfide bond is also able to persist decomposition, so therefore it helps in hair persistence also. Melanin is a chain of insole and quinone. Insole and quinone is also present in tyrosinase enzyme, so it has little tyrosinase also, this melanin. Melanin and tyrosinase enzyme are almost chemically similar. That is what gives the color to melanin. All this keratin and your melanin, these proteins are present in your cortex, which is the sandwiched part of your hair. It's not on the cuticle. Cuticle, even though it looks dark and all that, actually these proteins are actually filled up in your cortex part of hair. Cuticle is made of glycogen, and the coating of the shaft, that is your cuticle and the scales and all that, they're made up of glycogen, which is a carbohydrate bonded with a protein. Okay, glycogen. Glyco is a carbohydrate part, and the ogen part is the protein part. Glycogen is what your cuticle and the exterior part of the shaft is made up of. Keratin is made of strong disulfide